Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Oh, you pretty chitty bang bang, chitty chitty bang bang, we love you. And our pretty chitty bang bang, chitty chitty bang bang loves us too.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. It is Monday. It's start of a new week, start of a new project. Today is also Labor Day here in the States, which means a lot of people have the day off and they don't have to work today. I don't have to work today, but what am I going to do? I'm going to start a new project. And this is a project with a history, and those are always the best. The story has already started and been exaggerated and gone out into the ether and has been told and retold around many a campfire. But I can't even pretend to set the record straight because even the details are getting fuzzy to me. But we'll go ahead and tell you the story. This week's build, if you couldn't have told by the earworm catchy little tune that introduced us, is the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Now, the interesting story about this is I've been waiting for a good model of this for a while. And I know that there was an original model that came out in the 60s done by Aurora. But I've always waited, why hasn't somebody come out with a new version of this thing? And I come to find out, as with many things on this kit, it's all tied up in the James Bond license, whoever has the Bond license, because this was an Albert Broccoli production. MGM came out right in the middle of a chunk of James Bond movies, written by Ian Fleming, starred Goldfinger, Gert Frobe. I call it James Bond for kids. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is James Bond for kids with songs. It's a musical James Bond for kids. I'm sorry, I've got something here that I can't. I've got a hair on my tongue. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I've always liked this kit, and I knew that there was an old pressing of it, but was kind of waiting for some. And I don't build cars. Traditionally, Lou doesn't build cars unless it's a specialty, or Tom Daniels, or maybe you can hear one going by now, a Barris car, something that's got a little bit of a specialty to it, Beatnik Bandit, things like that, Boot Hill Express, the AMT, the Amtronic, things like that. Cars that are unusual, I will build. Well, this is right up my alley. This is an unusual car. And so here I am at Wonderfest last year, and I'm perusing the aisles, looking at the dealer's room, and I see this box sitting up above. It's like a pyramid of boxes on this dealer's booth, and it is a plain brown box, but it has a color Xerox of this image taped to the front of the box. And I went, ooh, that's the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I look at the price and I go, gulp. That's a lot to ask for an old kit. So I asked him, if you could bring it down so that I could look at the parts, because curiosity, really, I wanted to see how big of a kit this was going to be. To me, a car no model needs to be about that big to make it worth the time. I went down, looked through the parts. He showed me the instructions. He had Xeroxed the instructions where he had taken a yellow highlighter and basically checked off against each part to make sure that it was still there, because it wasn't in the original box. I'm sorry, I don't mean keep saying like that. But so I kind of filed it all away. It's a kit. It's a nice size. All the parts are here. Well, that was kind of early on a Saturday, and Saturday at a Wonderfest, you don't. I know, contrary to what Phil says, if you see it the first time, buy it. Well, I was kind of on the fence about the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. There were other things that I wanted to get at Wonderfest, and I wanted to get them right away, and I wanted to make sure that I had the money for those first, and that's normal. You go in with a mind to what you want to get, and then if something pleasantly surprises you, then you act on that. So I had picked up what I'd wanted to get, which were those little Blackheart busts, and so I was wandering around seeing what else was there, and I saw this Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So, okay, looked at the parts, looked at the size of it, was assured that all the parts were there. Said, okay, thank you very much. I may be back later. And he puts the box back up on the shelf. Well, I continue my rounds, and then I come back and I see a good friend of mine, Rob Schmidt. Rob Schmidt is he's my Iwata guru. He's the guy I go to whenever I have questions about my airbrush. And as it happens, the Iwata booth was right across the aisle from this guy. So I'm walking up the aisle and I see Rob. He's got the box down and he's looking at the parts and he's checking them against the list. And I'm going, Well, knowing somebody else wants the kit that you want, that makes it that much more attractive. So I kind of sidled up to him. Oh, Rob, you don't want this. No, you don't. Put that down. You don't want this. Save your money for something. Trying to dissuade Rob because now I'm getting to where I really want this kit. And we go back and forth. And at some point, I bump into Phil, tell Phil about it. Phil goes and looks at the parts for this kit. And so now all of a sudden, the hunt is on. And I thought really my nemesis was going to be Rob. I didn't think Phil was all that interested in it. So we put it back, and I kind of let it go. The hall closes at 5 o'clock on Saturday. Still hadn't picked it up. And then Saturday night, go out to dinner, talk to Phil about it, find out Phil's interested in it too. Well, that just makes me, that just makes me more want to have it. So Sunday, get down there nice and early. Find out the guy is, I guess he's off. He was off somewhere. So I had the other guy that was minding the booth. I said, "Can you put this aside for me? I'll be right back. When the guy comes back, I will come over and buy it." He goes, "Fine." So he puts it under the table, and then bump into Phil, and Phil has looked for it too, but he goes, "Lou, I went over there and it's gone. The box is gone. Somebody must have bought it." And I went, "Yeah, well, them's the breaks. Sometimes it just works out that way." In the back of my mind, knowing. So, about 20 minutes later, the guy has returned to his booth, and I said, "The guy, your friend here said he would put the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang aside for me." "Oh yeah, sure." So I put the plastic across the table. He hands me the box. I tuck it under my arm, and then I continue to walk around the dealer room. And then I happened to see Phil again, which is easy because Phil's a big guy. He's kind of easy to spot in the crowd. And I said, "Phil, about that box that wasn't there, it's still not there because it's right here." And I pointed under my arm, and he went, "You!" And he shook his mighty fists in the air and went, "You skunk!" So yes, I came home with the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Now, Phil was so interested in building Chitty Chitty Bang Bang that he went out to the gods of eBay and ordered a couple kits for himself, figuring that he has to get partial kits. If there's a piece missing, he'll have another kit. Plus, these ones, I believe, were partially built, and he didn't know what kind of shape they were going to be in. You've seen his video. It's a wonderful retelling of the same story. But he has finished his Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and it's a marvelous build. And now it's my turn to do mine. So I asked Phil, I said, "Well, you've got all these parts left over. Would you mind sending me?" And I really only wanted the wings and the tail fin, the yellow parts, the wings, the front wing and the back wing, because I have something else in mind for another model way down the road that I wanted to use that for. And he said, "Sure." So he sent me the extra parts. He didn't need them anymore. He's built his. So that's why I'm using his box. This box has gone through several hands. This is the box that Phil ordered from eBay, built the model out of, and then sent me the box with the leftover parts in it. So now I have Phil's box. I chucked out the plain brown wrapper box, but my parts that were in that, only one or two of them were painted. The person left most of them on this. Well, here, let's get and show you here. Hold on. Okay, here is the box. Now it's 1968 Glidrose Productions. So this is an original Aurora box. These are the instructions that I was in my box. So you can see the highlighter. These are just Xeroxes of. This is my original yellowed instructions. These are the ones that come not nearly as dog-eared as Phil's instructions were, but the same. Obviously of the same vintage. And my parts are a lot of my parts are still on the sprue. Some of them are still in bags, and only one or two of them, like for some reason, the model maker decided to paint the floor. He painted the floor, and for some odd reason, he painted the squeezy bulb on the horn. Must have had some black paint that he was wanting to use up, and a couple of the red. He painted a couple of the mechanical bits red. So, but most of all the parts are, if not still on the sprue, they are here and in great shape. We have 2 trees of chrome, the little bit of clear for the headlights, and the windshield or windscreen. It's not much of a shield, but everything we need to build Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is here. I thought that originally I thought that this tree of chromed parts had gone yellow, but no, I realized it's meant to have been brass and not chrome, because when you put it up next to the chrome of the same vintage, you can see one is clearly chrome colored and one is brass colored. It doesn't really matter because all of this is going into stripper. I'm going to strip it all down to the bare plastic and then repaint all of the chromed bits. The main reason I wanted to have another set of these wings as backup is because I want to do some scratch building on this kit. As I've said, the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang there are four modes of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. There is the regular car. There is the airboat version, there is the glider version, and then there is the helicopter version. The first time it sprouts its wings, when it's escaping and going down the cliff, it is strictly a glider because the props don't come out in that formation. The wings come out from the side, the propeller starts at the back, but I'll go back and recheck it, but I don't recall that the propeller blades come up then. The only time you see the propeller blades is at the very end when they're escaping from Bulgaria. And that's what it looks like there. But if you can see the big difference here, and this is my reference picture. This is what I'm going to be using for my overall look. And all of this is exposed when the helicopter blades are up. The very dangerous and head-lopping blades are up. No guards on that. Would kill a small child if it came close. But then this all folds up and goes into the side here. And that's the only time you see these blades. Now, the model itself does not have all of this opened up. It has it as a closed, there's your version there. You can see it's closed up there, and of course not even the right, well, it is the right color, but it is closed up there, and that's not what I want to do. I want to do something that will simulate the mechanics there. So I don't know if there was ever a decal sheet with this or not. I don't know. I certainly don't have any decals with it now. The only things that I can imagine would be on the decal sheet might be the red pinstripes that are on the fenders. There's a red pinstriping detail, and you can see it notably here on the box art, which makes me think that there was a decal once upon a time for that. I'm going to see if I can cut that in vinyl. If I can cut a pinstripe that thin, I might try to put those on, but I don't have a lot of hope for that idea. In preparation for in preparation for the build, I watched the movie again. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon, and I had 2.5 hours to kill. This is a long movie, kids. It's got a overture, an intermission, and exit music. That's how long this movie is. But like I said, James Bond for kids. If you think going into it, if you think of it that way, you'll be in good shape. Also, I consider this like the illegitimate half-brother of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, since it does have a tertiary plot point of the candy and the spies and the candy, the Toot Sweets, which, if you watch the movie through the end of it, of course, Caractacus makes the financier, the lord of the candy factory, Mr. Scrumptious, Lord Scrumptious, offers to buy his wonderful invention, but it's only good enough for dogs. It's a dog treat, is what he ends up making it, which means all of the people that ate the candy during the Toot Sweet song were basically eating dog treats. So take that as you will. As I said, Bond for children. It's got the incredibly named Truly Scrumptious, which would be right up there with Octopussy and Pussy Galore as far as Bond woman names. Caractacus Pot is Dick Van Dyke, very wisely not trying to repeat his English accent from Mary Poppins. I watched the making of, if you can find this DVD, I don't think this is out on Blu-ray yet. If you can find this old DVD, get it, because there's a wonderful making of thing, or a remembrance thing, where basically, and that's 20 years old, of Dick Van Dyke sitting down talking about his memories of this movie, and the fact that the actor Lionel Jeffries that played his father was 4 years younger than he was. I thought that was amazing. That was probably the most amazing piece of trivia I learned from that. So, enough of my yammering. First thing I'm going to do is strip these down and get them in the simple green. And that's all I'm going to do with it today, really, because like I said, it's Labor Day and I'm taking it easy. Okay, I'm just doing the most basic of construction today. I've got the chrome parts soaking right there in the purple stuff, and I'm going to leave them sit overnight. I'm in no great big hurry to get those out. But I'm putting the two halves of the tires together. It's kind of strange that they are molded this way. I mean, everything since then has been a rim and an outer rubber piece to go around it, but I guess because of the unique nature of these rims being spoked like this, that they thought maybe it was better to do them in halves. But it's going to mean some cleanup. There's not a ton of flash on these parts, but there is some, and you have to accept the fact that these are 50-year-old parts. I mean, if this model was 68, so, that's some substantial 50. I'm not going to do the math, but it means they're old parts, old plastic here, and it's got a seam right down the center. Now, I'm going to make it easy on myself by painting the entire rim, or painting the entire deal red, and then going back in with a mask and mask off the rim to paint the flat black, or maybe even a semi-gloss black for the tire. There actually is a rubber black that I should be using, and I may yet. But and then going back in, this brings me back to the time machine days of going back in and doing all of the rivets in that bright brass. Now, there's a lot of brass on this kit, or on this subject. There's a lot of brass and a lot of chrome, and some places where the two of them kind of meet up. So it's going to be
a trick to make sure that the two different metal finishes are distinct enough that you can tell that I'm trying to go for a different color. And of course we've got the spare. Now yeah, see, when I put those together, that really wasn't as noticeable until I got them in glued up. So now I can just go in with the X-Acto and clean up these rims. Now I'm not going to try to bore you all at once with this, but I'm thinking this is going to be maybe a 2-week build. I'm not going to try to rush through anything. I need to learn to start taking my time. The era that this movie comes from, this is like around the same era where you have his Chitty Chitty Bang Bang's spiritual brother, the Love Bug. Now, Chitty does not have, or does not exhibit, anywhere near the same personality that the Love Bug does, but it was still in that same era of fantastical cars. I think you could trace it to movies like The Great Race, which also had cars as characters. And again, getting into the Bond connection, where the Bond cars become as much a character as anything else. Yeah, just doing a little bit of spoke shaving here. Actually, using the back of the blade is a lot more effective because it's not wandering and it doesn't want to gouge like the front of the blade would. Good morning, folks. It's Tuesday. I'm reminding myself constantly it's Tuesday. Having Labor Day yesterday, the Monday holiday throws me off. It felt like just another Sunday. So I'm thinking today is Monday. No, it's Tuesday. The important thing is the chrome parts have been sitting in their Purple Power all night. They are ready to come out. And look, I'm not going to grab this with my hands. I'm going to use the tweezers. It's not that it's harmful. It's just, something you don't need to be dunking your precious hands in. But look at that. It all but strips away all of the chrome. There's a couple little stubborn bits there that will come off with some brushing. And maybe a little bit of scraping. Let me grab a glove here. I mean, what the heck? Since I've got a box of nitrile gloves, I might as well use them. Just to hang on to this plastic. But if I use I don't think I even need to use a scraper, but I will just to see. Yeah, that'll come right off. It's just a little more stubborn. A stiff brush will do it. But these were there's the blade I was looking for. These are the big bonnet pieces that I want to make sure are nice and clean. That might have to go back into stripper for one more treatment here. Yeah, let's pop that one back in. Luckily, the rest of the pieces are not being nearly as picky. This is the big exhaust piece. But I'm going to clean these off and let them dry off out here on the paper towel, and then we'll get to doing some sub-assemblying. Okay, I apologize up front for not getting a lot done today, but I've been consumed with getting a couple of orders out today, and that's what's taken my attention away. But I am looking at these pieces that have been soaking all night, and I've cleaned off and removed the ones that are done. And it's interesting that they're even way back in 1968 when this was done, that they knew the best color to put under chrome was black. because the plastic is itself black, and I'm wondering if I need to prime those again, or whether I can leave them black and simply paint the silver over top of it. I think I'm going to end up priming them. I had a handful, maybe looks like 6 pieces that I needed to put back in the bath and let them soak a little bit longer, and plus the ones that had been painted red, I put those back in. The ones the lovely previous owner of this kit had decided was something that they wanted to go ahead and start painting. Well, I needed to undo their kind work. I noticed that the pieces that had the brass, the brass coating on them, the chroming. There was one tree of silver chrome, and one tree that looked more like a brass chrome, and it looks like, for all the world, like what has come off of it looks like a cellophane tape almost, as if the yellow part of it was a separate tint that was put over the regular silver chroming. So it doesn't. I don't think that they may have had a brass chrome color so much as a silver chrome, and then they tinted over top of that. But I'm getting most of all that cleaned up, and we will be ready to start doing some sub-assembling pretty quick. I've got parts like this is the front grille, or the engine cover, and I can do some sub-assembling like that before we start before we start priming and then putting the chrome paint over that. So yeah, I'm going to get back to this. It's just, as I said, the weekend threw me, the holiday week, the holiday start to the week threw me, and then to get a couple of orders in. So it's been one of those scattered days, and again, I apologize. Thanks, everybody. It's Wednesday, and I promised to actually start putting some parts together today. I regret that I have not gotten as much done as I would like to, but I had a couple of orders come in that needed my immediate attention that I had to get out because, you know, I want to keep the customer satisfied. So I've got all the parts cleaned and dried and washed off, and I'm going to start doing some sub-assemblies before I prime. And this does harken me back to the old Aurora days. This is a true Aurora model where locating pins are merely suggestions, and you are expected to put things together with butt joints and glue and nothing more. This is a mess. This kit does not go together easily. We'll see if it goes together well. I am going to try to put together the 4 pieces that make up the chrome bonnet and engine compartment. But look, really, they just kind of lie against each other. There's no pins connecting them. You just kind of have to butt them up against each other, pray that they'll fit, and wait for the glue to dry while you try to fit it into the... Now, it does have a slight indent front and back, but only the very slightest, and there's no real alignment. You kind of have to draw a fictional line here where the center of this part is, kind of line that up with the center seam on the engine compartment, even though it could, you know, easily do one of these deals. Line that up, and then butt the other piece up against it, hope that that fits, and then put this, believe it or not, this is, with the camera rolling, this is as far as I've got on this sub-assembly. Yeah, and the main tub is nowhere as better, you know, not any better than the rest. It does have, like I said, the mere indication of an alignment pin at the front and one at the back, but then you have to bend it around the floor pan to get it to fit. So It's going to be fun. It's I'm gonna try not to have to use CA, even though tacking things in place with CA might be the quickest way through this. I'm going to try to get away from that. If I can do this with the MEK, then that's what I'm going to do. I got the wheels together. You saw that much. I'm trying to get things to a place where I can prime and then do some painting. Okay, kids, I'm not proud of myself for this, but one of the few rare instances where I actually had to get up and walk away from the table. I was this close to seeing if Chitty Chitty Bang Bang could actually fly, because this kit was getting ready to go out the window. If this was what the typical model was like in 1968, it's a marvel that the hobby ever survived. I don't know if it's the age of the plastic. I don't know if it's the type of the plastic. I don't know if it's the fact that I stripped the plastic. I stripped the chrome off of it. But I cannot, or could not, without resorting to CA, which I still haven't, I could not get the bloody stuff to stick together. And it doesn't help when there is nothing but good wishes and unicorn dreams to help hold these pieces together. There are no locating pins. There are no slots or divots or anything. Now, the closest we get is this tiny little ledge on the front edge of the cowling here for this to rest in. And then we get a tiny little ledge here on the front of the front edge, but no notch to tell you whether or not you've got it, centered or not. The example of the instructions basically say, and I'll quote, cement top edges of left hood half and right hood half together and cement crankcase to inside edges of hood. Now there is a tiny little nub right there that I am supposing you are supposed to rest this up against. But not only is there no square, the whole thing slopes together. There's nothing for you to hold it without it slipping out of your hand. I'm not getting any younger, and that has a lot to do with it too. But trying to get these pieces to go together and stay is a nightmare. It is a lot tougher than it needs to be. It's a lot tougher than I am willing to put up with when it comes to something that's supposed to be a relaxing hobby. Now, we don't know, for example, see, we have the front end on. We don't know if this is supposed to rest this way or if it... Here's your... Now, the fact that all these parts are black, and I'm trying to show you something of a black part floating, fitting up against another black part, I'm sorry about that. That's the color of the plastic underneath the chrome. I don't know if this is supposed to fit up against it like this. Is it supposed to fit inside it? There's two different ways this could go, and some sort of indication would have been just fine, to quote Stevie Nicks. Just an indication would have been just fine. So the irony is not lost on me that I picked this kit because I wanted to do a model where the parts were not in question and the fit of the parts were not in question. Well, it turns out that they are very much in question. As much as I would love to see a good model of this, I hope to God whoever decides to eventually do it retools the bloody thing and doesn't try to use these old tools again, because they suck. Strike 3 on the plastic weld. I went and got out the freaking CA. I didn't want to have to do it. I was one step away from calling in the Fleet Fixer. Now, the Fleet Fixer has a unique history. The Fleet Fixer was something I had back in the day when I was tired of putting my Enterprise together again for the 9th time after the pylon snapped and the engine came out of the pylon or out of the secondary hull. The fleet fixer is a soldering iron. The fleet fixer was what I would the instrument of last resort. It was, I would melt the plastic together, basically, is what would happen. I would pull out a soldering iron, and if I had two pieces of plastic that refused to go together, by God, by the time they met the tender mercies of a soldering iron, they were together. And I was that close to calling in the Fleet Fixer Mark II on this thing. Yes, I've got CA out. I don't like it, but I'm going to have to do it. Finally get three of the 5 pieces together to make a triangle here so that I can reinforce parts up against that. But good Lord, this should not be this difficult. The turning point was when I picked this thing up, and of course this joint here snapped open again. Treating it nicely is not the answer. You gotta pull out big guns. So I'm gonna put the back cowling in, and then we're gonna glue in the other side of the hood, and we are going to be done with this thing. Don't know why. Again, we can spend from here to eternity trying to figure out why this isn't acting nice, but best to just get on with it, I think. We'll see if the brown plastic is any better. This black plastic that had the chrome on it, it may be a special case, I don't know. But yump and yiminy, it should not be giving me this much agita. Okay, the adventure continues. The 10X does seem to, I remembered from the other day when I did the tires, the 10X works fine on the brown plastic. It is the black plastic that it is giving me a bit of an issue with. And I think I inadvertently said Tester's cement earlier when I meant to say Aurora's styrene cement. This is what they recommend using, Aurora cement. I don't think I ever used Aurora cement in my life. We are going to, I'm feeling good about this. It's together. I did notice something very strange when I was taping it up to hold it together. When I pulled the tape off, there was like a brown, clear, almost like old cellophane residue on the tape, and I noticed that the plastic wasn't shiny anymore. So even after stripping it, even after washing it after I stripped it, it still has this. Let's see if I can pull it off to show you on the inside here. You can see how glossy this is. When I yank it off, you can see all that residue that's left on the inside. Yeesh. Hey everybody, it's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend. We're going to get a lot done today. I'm hoping and praying, and I'm in much better spirits than yesterday. Everything has got to gray, which is a good starting point. I was cleaning up the rims here, and it wasn't until just this very moment that I recognized there were 2 different spoke patterns there. So I need to check. I'm guessing that the one with the more spokes go on the rear axle, but I have no way of knowing. I'm just going to muddle through and see if the instructions tell me anything. Let me see. La 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 la. 32. I don't think it mentions specifically why one set of wheels has more spokes than the other, but I'm going to make the executive decision to put those in the back. Of course, this one has no spokes at all. It is the spare tire. It goes up here on the framework, and I'm going to hopefully start getting some paint on these parts today. Now, in my perusing and research, I have realized that this is wildly inaccurate. There are supposed to be 2 more vents over here, which are not there. And I think there's probably supposed to be a third vent or a fourth vent down there. These ones here are missing on the side. So I'm noting how much of this is brass and how much of this is chrome. And it's a lot more brass than chrome. Basically, these are the chrome bits and this is a chrome bit. And then the rest of it is brass. So that'll be fun when we get into the painting of that. I want to paint the black, fortunately. I want to paint the black underneath. All of this gets a black gloss coating. And of course, anything that's going to be chromed is going to get a black gloss chroming. Or black gloss coating, sorry. And then we can start working on painting seats and other things. So yeah, hopefully this will be a much more colorful day than yesterday. Well, I found a great reference for the filming, one of the filming Chitty Chitty Bang Bangs, one of the film cars. And it confirms a couple of things and it dispels a couple of things. You can see there is only one, in this version, there is only one grate right here, one grill right there, one set of vents. We can see again how much is silver versus how much is brass. You get a sense of the deep red that is in the rims and on the suspension here. It's a deeper red than maybe the outdoor lighting makes it look brighter. This exhaust pipe looks more of a copper, and so you're introducing even a third metallic color. We go to the next one here. This is what I wanted to show. This has got that fine, almost Batman style of pinstriping. I'm not going to be able to duplicate that at this scale. That's just too fine of a line. If it were decals, that's another thing, but I just wouldn't be able to do it. Here you see the burgundy interior. Again, the brass lamps. The what I'm calling a brass highlighting around the wood. Notice that the wood grain, the spaces between the boards is not black like you would expect, but it is bright. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. I may not be able to. I can just move the camera closer. But you'll notice between the boards, you'll see that is actually a gold color and not black like you would typically see on a floor. Okay, next picture here we can see the red suspension. I'm seeing the what looks like the beginning of those other panels, those vent panels, which are not on the model. Oh, go back to that again. Here's that pinstriping, that red pinstriping that we're never going to be able to duplicate. Brighter. Maybe the light is shining on this better, so you can see the red does look brighter back here, but you see the red spoked rim with the gold or brass accents, and again that pinstriping that is all over the black glossy fenders. Here we can see how the gas tank and the tail light lamps and the luggage rack here, how they all relate to the gas tank and how that all sits at the back of the frame. Again, the back, this is the picture that I was looking for, because I wanted to see how that that the rack is black, how the gas tank fits in there, and how and what direction the lamps were, because it looked like they were had their lights pointing in, which would be dumb. They would be pointing back. Again, no opening here for the propeller. The rear propeller had it came out of a little hatchway that opened here. The model does not do that. The model just acts like it comes up out of the rear fin. They may have patterned the model may have been patterned after the driving car and not the effects car, and that may be why we don't see it. There's a good indicator of the snake, dragon, whatever type of head horn that is, and the spare. Here you can see that grill that is not there on the kit, but you get a better idea of the running boards and the pinstriping here. Now the running boards on the effects model, or on the effects prop where the wings come out, these actually flip up to allow the wings to come out. That doesn't happen on the model. The model has those kind of fudged in, and that's how we're going to be building that part of it, at least. Here's the dash, which is a chrome or a maybe a stainless steel, a polished silver metal backdrop with brass accents. Here's where I'm talking about that heavily lacquered brass detailing on the wood, and the burgundy leather / vinyl seats that are not flocked, but they are, which is obvious because it's a convertible. There's no roof for this, so you would want a material that you could wipe off. But you see the trim for the windshield is all brass. All of this detailing here is in brass. I think that might, no, one more picture. Yeah, here you go, the dashboard. And there you can clearly see that all of the details are brass on top of the silvered background. I am continuing to clean some of these little detail parts, and it's a bit like panning for gold. You have the hope that if you sift through enough of the dirt, you will find something valuable at the heart of it, and that has been the case on particularly these little lamps. The fret that had, or the tree that had the chrome on it, also had the worst flash on it. So I can't imagine how bad it would have been if I was trying to glue these flash riddled pieces together that still had the chrome on them. It would be even more ridiculous than it is. So I am trying to, and these, honestly, these illustrations aren't helping, so I'm going out to the real world, to Google searches on images to see like what the proper orientation of these lamps are, because they're not drawn very well in the instructions, and they are basically mirror images of each other, and I'm trying to figure out what do they go on the sides of sides of this back rack? Do they go on the back edge of the back rack? Which way do they point? All that kind of stuff. And a lot of the pictures are annoyingly 3/4 views of the front, and there's not a lot of views of the back, which is why I was searching those pictures online to try to get some clarity in these matters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do some of these smaller sub-assemblies, which will, when you put them all together, make an assembly that's large enough to, hold while you're painting and all that kind of stuff. It's tough to do them individually. So I'm going to continue that way for a little while, and then we'll start. What I'd like to do is get enough stuff up that it's worth me cracking out the airbrush to do a lot of black painting, and then I'll do a round of the red painting for the hubs and the some of the framework and all that kind of stuff. And then we can start knocking these things out. I can also paint the chairs, get them ready to go in. There are a couple of inner walls that go on the front of the tub, which are, let's see if these are, no, see, it's not drying. Even though I've got the MEK, it's not setting, so I just need to get some better clamps on these. The way the parts are warped, they just don't want to go together that well. Okay, so as we pull the curtain closed on today, which is a sad day for my British friends, I'm sorry for you, we'll see that we've got a lot of our primer coats down, or our first coats down. I've got the undercoating for the metallics on that. Got the benches painted. First coat. I need to put a wash over that to bring out the detail. Got the inner rims painted on the tires. Got that red painted. Also have the red painted on the suspensions and the differential here. Got the tub put together, and I've got the first brown coating on the outside of that. So yeah, we've got progress. The big news is, of course, we've got the black on the main fenders and whatnot. See, even Mr. Compressor is happy. But that's where we're going to leave it for today, and we'll pick this up again tomorrow, and we'll start putting some of this stuff together. Alrighty, I'm thinking one last job for today isn't going to hurt anybody. I'm going to go ahead and knock these out. This is the area that I wanted to cut out and replace with some very thin wire or brass rod, just to make it look more like this area here and less like the leading edge that it's showing. So yeah, we're going to knock all this back to here, and we're going to keep just this very back part because that's where the connector pin is underneath. Morning everybody, it's Friday. It's the last work day of the week, last day of the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang week 1. This will obviously go into next week, but I'm playing around. I'm still trying to get a good gold in between the planks of the tub here, and you know, it's come to this. I'm resorting to actually physically painting these in one by one and then wiping them off and hoping that the paint will stay in the cracks between the boards. I just have to come up with a better idea of how to dry brush over the tops of the boards. I thought by hitting this with a gloss clear that would make the paint easier to wipe off and it wouldn't want to stick where I didn't want it, but it's a mixed result. The big trim pieces are painting up nicely, but by that I mean these the doorways and the front ends. Those are painting up nicely with this gold paint, but the stripes between, or the inlay between the boards is not nearly as clean as I would hope. It's certainly never going to be mechanically precise, but much like a impressionistic painting, I'm hoping that it gives enough of the indication of what I'm trying to do that any technical flaws would be forgiven. But I'm thinking that once you see the whole thing put together, that it might be more forgiving. We'll find out. It's going to look something like this. Oops, nope. It's going to look something like this. Let me see, that I think goes over top of, yeah, that goes over top of there. So it's going to sit something like that. So I'm hoping that we can come up with a good solution. I've got masks cut for the black. I'm going to paint the tires today. I've masked off the red. Don't know if I'm going to try doing any of the metallics today. This is drying from yesterday. I want to try to maybe give that another bit of time to dry before I decide to try painting the silver and the gold on that. But that's how it looks when you put it all together. So we'll see. We'll see what the day brings us. Okay, this is me testing a theory, more so than the actual color. Amongst my many paint mask sets that I make something called Joker Pants stripes for the 1966 Joker, to paint the stripes on his pants, and they are the thinnest, the very thinnest vinyl strips I have ever been able to cut reliably and consistently. And they're only meant to be used for a very short time while you put them on the Joker pants, and then you paint the purple over top of them. I pulled a set of those that I had in the stash out just to see. Now, don't mind the color. This is the color of the Joker, of the painting template. I am trying to see whether it is feasible to pinstripe this thing. I don't think I will be able to put the little divoty corners in. I would have to square them off. I think they are scalloped corners on the actual pinstriping. And I think this is 2 full stripes, but this is the single thinnest stripe I can ever cut. And I'm wondering if I cut those in red and put them down, whether they are worth the effort to do. I painted up these side vents just to see how everything would kind of look, and the side step there. And I'm of a mind, because I think it would snazz it up a bit to have that pinstriping on there. My only question is there enough adhesive on the back of that stripe to keep it in place, or is it gonna like curl up in a day or two? So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is leave these on, see if they stay in place, or see if they want to lift up or curl up, and then we'll know whether or not this is a viable option for the body. Okay, the flat black has had a chance to dry on the tires, and now I'm going to remove these masks. And of course, if there's any slop or any ghosting where the vinyl didn't stick down to the plastic around the wheels, or, around the lug nuts or anything, of course I've always got the opposites. I can cut some outer masks and put those down and respray the red around the center should I need to. But as long as the 4 outside wheels look pretty good, I think I'll be happy. So let's start pulling these off and see what the damage is. Let's see, that's a nice clean wheel there. That's the inside. Let's see what the outside looks like. Yes, I thought so. Around these lug nuts, the vinyl did not sit down very flat, so I can cut the opposite sides of those. Let me just check to see how many of these I'm going to need. Yeah, the inside wheels are good. Yeah, there's a couple, 3. I felt it as I was spraying that it was coming up. Again, the inside where there is no lug nuts, those are great. Oh, this is the spare tire. There are no lug nuts on either side of that, so of course it's working nicely. Not the worst thing, not a catastrophe. I just have to load the brush up with some red and spray those outsides again. Okay, so I've got all the reverse masks down, and I'm ready to respray the red. And I suppose you can make the argument that I should have done this way the first time, just paint everything black and then come back in and do this. But A, I think the red is truer going over the gray than it would be going over black. And B, just getting in and around all the spokes and everything, it was easier to do that when I wasn't having to be so careful about how I was holding the tire. So it doesn't take much of anything to just go back in and do the little touching up. So I think this way has the most merit. So let's get the brush and some red paint out. Alrighty, I'm taking the outer masks off now, and I think they're looking worlds better. This is the showy side, the side with the lug nuts and the bolts showing. That's the important side, whether it's the front or the back, because the insides, it'll be nice, but they don't have to be perfect because you're not going to see them as clearly. So you're just checking to make sure that red is a nice sharp red line, and then we will be ready to add these to the axles. Look at that. Oh yeah. And then I need to, of course, go back in with the titanium gold and just do a little touchy touch with my tiniest brush on those bolt heads. Here's something unexpected. Why not? Why not? Everything else is going so swimmingly well. Why shouldn't this? If you set the shocks, the absorber, or the leaf springs, the front springs, if you set those where they're supposed to go and then try to put everything in place, it don't fit. you might be able to see here, the leaf spring, if you try to sit that axle, or the front axle, if you try to set that on those leaf springs, and then the tire, you will never be able to put those tires on. So I'm certainly glad I did not glue this axle down before I put the tires on. So I have got to do something that brings those up. I can't figure out what it is. Is the fenders aren't warped, unless they are. That might be an easier fix than trying to fix the but again, there's no pin to stop them, so I just kind of glued them on the side where they wanted to land. But it looks like we might have to break this joint right here and set these fenders up higher. See, I just attached them here and let the rest of it fall where it should. But yeah, I think that's going to be the best solution in all of that, would be to bring those fenders. And of course, the back axle fits fine. But I was looking, yeah, okay. I'm going to have to break this joint here that I put so much glue in and raise those fenders up. So let me go ahead and reattach this one leaf spring that I broke out of place because I thought I needed to. One step forward, 2 steps back. Alright, now I gotta say, it's a darn good thing this car can fly, because it certainly can't roll. It's got no clearance between the wheel and the fender, because this fender wants to warp downwards. I've tried to do what I can to pull them in. What I can do maybe is when I put the front engine in, I can maybe pull these up a little bit, but I had to cut this joint here and here and raise them both up and sit them on top of the frame as opposed to being on the sides of the frame, just to make enough room for the wheels to even fit in there. So now I just need to touch up the paint a little bit, and we will have a in theory rolling chassis, even though it won't roll. We put these hubcaps on and then the tires will be finished. Okay, one last big thing I want to do today before I start cleaning up and getting ready for the weekend, and that is I want to try the metallic color chrome on this piece. This has been gloss blacked. It's been drying for a couple of days. It is the bane of my existence trying to get those 5 pieces to join together. So maybe it'll make it up to me and actually react okay when I put this chrome paint on it. Okay, I've put it off long enough. I've basically re-chromed everything else but this piece. As a matter of fact, I can do these guys now too. I'm just getting my pressure and my airbrushing technique down before I try to apply it to the big piece. But all of these smaller things that need to be re-chromed, and it is a lot it's a lot cleaner than the chrome the kit came with, so that's all I gotta say. Okay, here we go. Nothing to it but to just steel up the nerve and do it. We'll start with the oil pan because that's the least visible. There's plenty of details on this that will be called out. There's the leather strap that goes around the hood bonnet to hold it in place. And as I say, it's better to do this in lighter coats than to try to do it all in one coat. You know, I should take that tape off the front, because even the gold or the brass that's going to go on that color is, that's why I had it taped off. It needs to have this silver underneath it, and then I can tint it with another color, either a clear orange or a just by spraying the titanium gold on it, but or the gold leaf on it, but it needs to have that. Looks pretty good. Right now it's about a gunmetal. It needs to be brought up to a chrome silver. I am trying to be very careful to guide the amount of paint that's coming out of this, but yeah, I think there's a lot here to recommend. Still wish it had those two vents here on the side like it's supposed to, but I've noticed a lot, once you get down into the weeds, I've noticed a lot of inaccuracies with the kit when you compare it to the filming prop. So, you know, it's an Aurora kit. It's of its era. It's not blindingly realist or blindingly accurate, but I don't think any kits of this vintage were all that accurate. It wasn't something that came until over the last maybe 25 years where people have really insisted that their models be accurate. But yeah, look at that. That's pretty good chroming. Yeah. I'm thinking that these strips here that should be almost a white, I might let this dry all weekend and then decide whether to paint those in or not. Okay, so we're coming up on the end of the day, and it's a Friday, and it's the end of the week, so this is usually the time I try to piece everything together to see what the whole thing is going to start looking like. And this is what it is. Now, obviously, once I put the red on, it's going to add a lot to it. What we're seeing is not as colorful as it is going to be once the red is on the wings and on the tail and front, but it's getting there. Now I am still fighting hand over fist with this tub. I still want to find a way to get the brass accents to come out on that, the spacing between the planks. I will show that again because it bears repeating, that the space between the planks should be lighter than the planks, not darker than the planks. So that's what I'm trying to go for. I may not, like I said earlier, I'm not going to get the all of the little filigree corners on those pinstripes, but I might get at least the appearance of the indication of the pinstripes. And I'm looking in now at the tires, and I am seeing that the hubs and the inner hubs are gold, but these outer bolts are not painted at all. So I might have to go back into my hubs and take the gold paint off of those. I kind of like it though. Tempted to leave it anyway. But yeah, I mean, all of this placed together. Obviously, there's a lot of brass that needs to be painted in here, and a lot of gold that needs to be painted. What you're seeing, all the metal you're seeing, it still has the basic chrome plating on it. I'm trying to sit this up in such a way that it is resting on the wings. So let's see if I can do this. Try to make a stable base. There you go. So that the because I haven't glued the big wings in yet. And those side panels should be folded out. I mean, like I said, there's lots that is wrong about this kit. The way these wings just kind of go here and die. They don't do anything. It tells me that they didn't know how they were going to engineer this when they decided to make a kit out of it. So we're taking what we can get, and we're trying not to fuss a bit. We'll pick this up again next week.
And that's going to do it for the end of the first week on the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, or the Chitty Bang Squared. It did not go as easily as I was hoping it was going to, nor as I had planned for it to go. I don't know why these 5 pieces were giving me such fits. That's what you get for a kit that, from a kit that's made in 1968. They just didn't make them. The old saying about they don't make them like they used to. I'm glad they don't make them like they used to. They make them so much better today. But we'll finish this up next week. So until then, be good, be safe, be smart, and greetings from Hushabye Mountain. We'll see you here next time.